Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. It's been almost a year since the most damaging storm in North Carolina, Helene, hit our western counties. Tonight, WRAL's newest documentary focuses on the families and communities changed forever and the fight to fund recovery efforts. WRAL's Cristin Severance joins me now. Cristin, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
This was a big undertaking, I think, to say the least. I've seen the documentary. It's really, really moving. I encourage everyone to watch it. And what kind of hit me watching it was given the emotional and financial toll of the storm. Can you just explain to people how you decided to focus your reporting on this? Where do you even start with dealing with a storm like this?
That is the first question. Where do we start? Because it was a $60 billion disaster. And there were so many people impacted, so many towns and communities. So the first thing we did, I run the WRAL Documentary unit. It's me and a photojournalist. We produce all of the documentaries. Because Helene was such a station-wide effort, we had so many reporters and photographers in Western North Carolina covering the storm and the days after the storm. So I gathered everyone in the room, and Grace, you were there. And we had a whiteboard, we had a dry erase marker, and we just said, okay, throw out all of the ideas. Who did we talk to? Who have we talked to? Who have we checked in with? What stories must we tell? And at the end of that meeting, we had hundreds of ideas. And then we were able to really look and see, okay, how many places can we realistically go back and visit? How many stories can we really delve into? Because it's such a fine line. You want to go to as many places as you can, but you also want to be able to, dive into these stories and do them justice.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the documentary is how long? Remind me.
It's 49 minutes on digital and on YouTube, and the TV version is 30 minutes.
Gotcha. Yeah. So there's a certain amount of time that you're dealing with to try to pack all this in. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking in that meeting, like, this is insane to try to fit all this in, but you did well, I think, having watched it. And you introduce us to a couple of those families who lost not just their homes and communities, but their loved ones. So how did you go about handling emotion in some of these really intense interviews? I mean, I know as reporters, we do this to varying degrees, but it really was just heart-wrenching, the stories of these families.
It was tough. These people lost so much and lost loved ones, and they're willing to sit down and talk to you about it. So much emotion came up. One of the stories we told, the Craig family in Fairview, it was really, and as we sat in that meeting, we decided who to focus on. You really cannot tell the story of Helene without talking about the Craig family. And it's this, Fairview is a town in, right outside of Asheville, small. And in this area, there are so many members of the Craig family that they call this part of town Craigtown. Mm-hmm. And, 13 people died in Fairview, and 11 of them are from the same family. We talked to Mary Garrison, her husband, Tony, lifelong firefighter, her husband, her nephew, and her son all ran to try to rescue someone. And then there were these two intense landslides. Mary Garrison's husband, Tony, died, and she sat and talked with us. Her emotion is so raw.
Yeah.
She's so well-spoken, and she really speaks with such heart and really talks about what that day was like and then, what it's been since. Her son survived. She lost her many members of her family, but she lost her husband and her nephew in that landslide. And so she talks about what it's been like trying to move forward and kind of this survivor's guilt. And that is really a thread. Mm-hmm. All of the people we talk to have this real intense survivor's guilt because they are still here. And that's something, we will get into in the documentary.
Yeah, it's that survivor's guilt. And then another thing when you were in that area was the one member of the Craig family who has the destroyed truck that she just wanted to leave it there. I think that's such like a a metaphor for the situation.
Absolutely. They're such a tight family. They were all so close. They, in proximity, all their homes were right next to each other. And Alicia Craig, who you referenced, her in-laws lived right behind her. They ate dinner together every night. Her in-laws' home was swept away. And as you mentioned, her father-in-law's truck, it's damaged. It's behind her house, and she just cannot bring herself to move it.
Yeah.
She said it's something that he owned, and she just has to leave it there.
Yeah. And for you, obviously you were walking around these places with families like theirs saying, this is where this home used to be, this is where this store used to be, all of that. You also kind of walked through with Eric, who, was kind of explaining his perspective as someone who was there right after the storm and what's changed, what's the same since he was there covering it initially. What was it like for you to kind of step into all of that and see where it is in the recovery process now?
Eric Miller, anchor and reporter here, spent so much time in Western North Carolina, and so did Sean Braswell. He's a photojournalist. He's from there, and I really wanted them to be a part of this. They were almost my tour guides because they knew the area so well and know the area so well. It's very special to both of them. They were able to tell me, you have to go here, you have to go here. And so we spent a week there, and we split up 2 different crews. So Eric and Sean hit all of these different places. My producing partner, Dwayne Myers, and I hit several others. And then we were able to, produce a documentary. But Eric had such an interesting perspective just because he was able to be there the day after the storm and then be there 1 year later. And he says it's surreal. He said some places look good. I mean, some places are on their way back. Some places have a long way to go, like Bat Cave, for instance, Chimney Rock, Lake Lure. I mean, there are hundreds of huge dump trucks just every day coming out of Lake Lure, still, removing these huge pieces of debris. So it was really interesting to be there, with both of them.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break right there. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the recovery efforts and the financials of recovering since this storm. So, Cristin, the other thing I remember most, I think, about the immediate aftermath of Helene is how quickly people there felt like they were not getting the help that they needed and felt that feeling of being ignored or not listened to. And so the calls for help have been going on since this storm ended, and we've heard that for this whole year since. Can you explain to people why that feeling is there and sort of what it looks like on the ground, why people still feel that way?
Absolutely. So, right when the storm hit, because it's the mountains and there was a hurricane in the mountains, yes, it was tough to get help there. I mean, there weren't roads. It was impossible to get to some of these places. So, of course, everyone understands that. And the other part of this, there was help. It was nonprofits. It was neighbors. It was, the mountains are such a special place. The people who live there are so kind and caring. And they showed that, right? The spirit of the mountains, that's not some cliche. Like you felt it, you saw these people pitching in. A year later, it's the same thing. You have all these nonprofit groups. You have, charities on the grounds because they have no red tape. They don't have to wait. They can go and they can do whatever they need to do. The tough part has been waiting for, towns are telling me federal funds, right? FEMA is supposed to reimburse these towns for the work they've done. So these are approved projects. These are very small, places. Sometimes their budgets are, $3 million, $15 million. And then a project to, let's say, redo a sewer system is $19 million, right? And so you're having to pay all of this money out of your operating budget. You're waiting for the FEMA to refund you. And, Governor Stein has said it's just taking way too long for FEMA to get this money to these cities.
Right. And, from the state perspective, where is that funding stand right now?
So Governor Stein asked for $2 billion. He's received $1.7 billion, I believe. He's going to go back to the legislature. He's saying that's for a state. He's been pleased with the General Assembly. He is going to go back to them. It's really this fight against, for federal funds. And FEMA, people have criticized FEMA for years and years and years. But what Governor Stein is saying is that now that DHS Secretary Cristin is requiring that she sees any purchase over $100,000, well, every purchase is over $100,000. So it's really kind of slowing things down. And then there's a DOJ review. So you have these two reviews really, slowing up when money can get to places, and it already was a slow process. So we really get into that in the documentary as well.
Right. And then, you touch on, you tell the story of the Ashby family, which is very, very sad. Kim Ashby's still missing at this point. And her husband explained to you about the home that they had and the efforts that they had taken when they built that home to sort of over-plan for flooding, and that it just wasn't really enough. I think about, what about the process that people go through with insurance claims, those kinds of things, and just sort of, he mentioned in the story he's still trying to understand how that even happened to his home.
Yes, Rod Ashby and Kim Ashby, they built a cabin in Elk Park, a really big 5-bedroom place, passed all the inspections, got all the permits, had floodgates all around the home. He said he was told it could withstand anything. That, of course, did not happen. The home, after the river started rising, the home eventually fell into the water. Kim Ashby is still missing. I asked about that, and he feels a lot of guilt over that, even though it did pass all the inspections. There was a high water bridge nearby. He believes that could have crashed into the house. But really, at the end of the day, this was a 1 in 1,000 year storm. And I think no matter what you prepare for, no matter what policy you get or what precautions you take, that's what I kept hearing over and over again. No one could have prepared for this.
What is the biggest takeaway that you hope viewers have after watching this documentary?
I hope they go there. I mean, being there and meeting these people, they've been through everything. They've been through so much. They're so positive. They're so hopeful. They're so inspiring. It just stuck with me. I went home and I said to my husband, we need to take a trip there. And I want to bring the boys, and it is still beautiful. And there are many towns not open, right? They may not be what they were, but they are open.
Right.
And they don't just want you to come. They need you to come.
Yeah. It's a very special area. I grew up going there as a kid, and it's important that now more than ever that we go and take our time with these people.
Yes, I think they need us. And I would never regret going, right? It's going to be a memorable and magical time.
Thank you so much, Cristin, and thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. That's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. You can sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.